Okay, now here's a Google Hangout I did with somebody else. They were interviewing me instead of me doing the interview. A sweet guy up in Washington State, Steve Simonson. And he does marketing for an organization called WearMax. And I interviewed him actually about his Kickstarter campaign. And he's terrific because this interview that he wanted me to do for him that you can watch now, because I got a copy of the Hangout following this, is that to help struggling entrepreneurs start their business, create projects, find a project, get a source of a project, find out how to market it online, and really you do nothing. You're just a middleman creating a brand. You brand something, you find a product, put your brand on it and sell it, and you got a whole business. Now what could be better than that? Well, that's what the people that he tries to help really for free. I mean, he just believes in marketing, believes in entrepreneuring, so he's trying to help people for free. And so that's why I did an interview with him to help people learn about marketing, your own business, your own brand, and all you need is brain power. So watch this.
Okay, Matthew Lesko, one of the most famous marketing icons in the world, as far as I'm concerned, certainly in the United States. We're privileged to have him with us. Welcome to you, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
So everybody knows kind of Mr. Lesko from the question mark suit, and he was very prolific in I would say 10 or 15 years ago, especially on infomercials and TV, talking about government grants and programs. That's kind of where people would most know you from in your books, of course.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's infomercials. I mean, anything general media. I was doing talk shows, and actually now that Letterman's gone, I see all my old clips from Letterman talk shows are popping up on YouTube. Yeah, and it's funny to see me with black hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I could. That's a good look back. I'm going to find some clips with me with some hair from the old days too. So I want to just take you through and talk a little bit about maybe some of your past, if you don't mind. And one of the questions
not ex-wives, right?
No, not like that. But one of the questions some of the guys in our group asked was, what was your first job? When you came up, what was the first job that you did?
God, first job. I was worried. 8th grade. I remember I was so pissed off at my father. I had to work all summer in the factory. We had a garment factory. Oh. Yeah, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And 8th grade, man, I mean, I was making a ton of money for that time, but I hated going to work. So, all my friends were at the swimming pool, and I had to go to this stinky factory every day work. And I hated it. And that's when I thought, God, if people have to work all day, I mean, most of our adult life is spent working, and if work is really work, boy, that's like being in jail all day, So I think that the key to life is how do you, live and feed yourself by not having to do something you hate all day, or God, and then the older I got, I see, man, there's so many avenues to that because it really cuts down your growth. I mean, if you're there just for money or whatever, God, you're swallowing your ego, you're swallowing your heart and everything all day long just to please somebody else. And then somebody else has control of your life, too. And that creates anxiety, I think, over time if somebody else controls you versus you. And so you die. Well, yeah, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but
well,
those shitty jobs I had, man, I never want to work for anybody. And then when I got out of college, I'd work for somebody. I'd work at retail or offices. I actually had a computer business. I went in the Navy. I was a ship driver during the Vietnam War, and got out of that. Was going to come to Washington and work for the government. Go to try to get a bachelor's degree, and boy, I didn't want to do that after I found out what work in the government was like. And, boy, I just had to be my own. I worked for somebody for 6 weeks and found myself calling the guy an idiot, and I said, I'd rather, it'd be nicer if I had people I hired and they called me an idiot behind their back. That would be less stress for me than me running around.
I like that. The secret to hiring is having the employees think you're the idiot instead of you working for the idiot. I like that. Well, I mean, I do think there's a lot of similarities to entrepreneurs in general, which is it's difficult to kind of be put into that. I have always considered working for somebody else like working in a coal mine, right? It's only 4 foot high. You have to kind of duck down. There's no pleasure in it, and everybody hates it. And Right. Perhaps you agree with this premise, but one of the other questions was, don't you feel like society in general is just building people to be cogs in the wheel instead of being free and entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what higher education is. I mean, there's no significant data, that shows that where you go to higher education or whatever, you go to Yale or Podunk or whatever, but everybody's rushing to those two things to get a job that you want to quit. I mean, it seems like we're getting all these credentials so we can get a quittable job. Job we just can't wait to get out of.
Yeah.
And what I see on the internet now is people teaching themselves stuff. Anything, technology, anything. Higher education is, you're right. I think the most important, I mean, of course there's exceptions. You want to be a doctor, you can't, you got to learn those skills. But, most of it is just, so the fat cats who need to hire thousands of people, it's easy to qualify them.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose that the main thing is when you think of the Fortune 500s, they just want to have check boxes checked, right?
Exactly.
But so many of those careers, and again, from various bits of data, there are a lot of people who are unhappy ultimately in those careers. They burn a lot of hours, they make some money, but there's no harmony in that lifestyle for a lot of people.
No, I mean, I see it. I mean, I live in a suburb, Washington D.C., a rich suburb, and these lawyers, they're making $1 million a year. Just hate their job every goddamn day.
Yeah.
What a waste of talent. What a waste to the world. I mean, and also what they're doing is holding that job for somebody who really wants it. Because we get sucked into doing something. So that's why, to me, I think we just stop the world. Everybody, it's like musical chairs. Stop, and everybody runs to the job they really want because you're holding somebody else's job. Who really would kill for that job. But
it's very fascinating how because I think a lot of how your move through high school and college and so forth, your move towards not what you love or your passion. It's kind of just what you may have been good at, or what maybe your family wants you to do. So, my philosophy, and I've shared this with you before, but I believe the world needs more entrepreneurs. And so, tell me today, or as you transition from your experience trying to work for the government, and you started your own business. What do you consider your first big break? How did you kind of break out of the norm?
Failure. That was the biggest break I ever had in my life, man. Because I got an MBA, I was starting businesses, and I got an MBA in computers back in the 70s, where the computer was bigger than this room. And I had a software company that failed. And I was doing everything when you talked about who forces you in. So I got an MBA. I'm learning how to do business and doing everything like everybody else says. And I think that's our biggest problem, is that we're taking advice too much. That worked for somebody, but not you. We're also goddamn different, And I was doing like everybody said. I was failing my ass off. And see, failure to me was my biggest fear in life. I mean, I don't know about you. In school, you never fail. That's another problem with school. Failing is bad. Don't do that. And so, I grew up thinking, if I ever failed at something in business, I'd have a big F on my forehead. Everybody would point at me, and it'd be terrible. And then when I finally failed twice in business, I realized nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. We're all so selfish and involved in our own life. We really don't care about you. That was liberating.
Very fascinating. So you're saying that the failure was the catalyst for you to break out and to find the next thing.
Absolutely. Because then I found out what I was good at. I was trying to be a software guy, because that was back in the 70s, that was it. That wasn't me. Look at that. I mean, millions and millions of dollars acting like an asshole on TV, and it got me thrown out of 3 schools.
Really?
Because I mean, I was just a guy with ants in my pants in every class. Nobody. I thought my name was sit down. It was sit down, Lesko. Sit down, Lesko.
Well, that's I definitely I actually to some of the members of my group yesterday, I wrote an email that said fail fast, and it's critical to your success. And I essentially agree that you've got to keep making decisions and keep moving forward. So that's fascinating. So as you think about today, you know, compared to when you got your big break or when you really broke out in business and kind of hit the big time, what do you see as the differences between then and now?
Well, there were more, all the established systems, particularly marketing and selling, which is really what business is all about to me. I mean, you know, you could list 1,000 things about business. You know, you need a lawyer. You know, I think all that is bullshit. The only thing that's important to do is getting a customer. Everything else is detail. So if any other consultant comes up to you, or a lawyer or accounting, and tells you how important something is, you really have to ignore it until you have so much business you don't know what the hell to do with it and you're trying to manage it. But until you get to that point, screw everything else. You have very little time in your life or in the day, and you have to concentrate on what I call the critical success factors of your business. And that is getting a customer. So you can't be sitting a half-hour meeting, you know, designing a fucking business card or whatever it is, or meeting with a board of directors, or most of those people aren't going to get you customers, you know, and it's just getting a customer. And what's different between systems were established, you know, how things were sold in this country and everything, they evolved, you know, and peaked in the 90s or 2000s or whatever, and now we're developing all new systems. So nothing in the past works. So if anybody's giving you advice over 40, man, forget it. Because they're relying on something that once worked, you know, and it doesn't anymore. The poor people, you know, like my age, yeah, we're trying to make that work again. It works so well, but it won't, you know. And it's better to have, you know, no preconceived notions, and you figure it out yourself. Just try 100 goddamn things until you find what works for you, what your product, where your potential customers are. And nobody could really tell you that except you through trial and error. Yeah,
no, that makes a lot of sense. You know, fundamentally, if you don't have a customer, you don't have a business. And I agree with you. The rest of it is, you know, how you details, but you got to have a sale before you can have a claim, is one of the things I have said. So in this world of, you know, kind of Uber and Fiverr and Airbnb and so forth, you know, isn't it, do you agree with my premise that, gosh, there's so much opportunity out there, the crowdfunding, the shareable economy? I mean, isn't this a great time to be alive?
Absolutely, absolutely. In my days, I want to sell something. We had to get a store. We had to invest a couple $100,000 in a store. Now I invest $20 on a website, you know, and I'm in business. And then plus, what's neat, you know, and then to get traffic, you would have to make some big deal with a mall, a shopping mall that would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to get in some big traffic shopping mall. Now on the web, like Amazon, get on there, man, that's the biggest shopping mall in the world. People are coming on bupkis, you know, to be in that mall, you know. So it's phenomenal. I mean, it is. You don't need expertise. You can learn most of it all yourself. The platforms, as we get more, you know, developed on the web, it's becoming easier and easier. I mean, for anything, you know, you could have, you know, you want to be in the pet sitting business. Now somebody has a platform to be a pet sitter, you know. So people are coming to that platform every day. You know, you have an extra room. Like we have an extra apartment down in Washington, D.C. that we don't use. I put it on Airbnb. Doesn't cost me a nickel. Man, we're getting thousands of dollars a month just for nothing, you know. I'm not doing any marketing even. They're doing all the marketing, you know. It's phenomenal, yeah, like never before.
It really is amazing, you know, whether it's the Airbnb or the Fiverr, you know, you can do little spot jobs, right. Or Amazon, which is a big deal for the folks in my group. You know, these guys are starting their businesses on Amazon. They're making their own private labels, and they're taking the product where the customers are, right? Which is a big part of that. What advice do you have for these guys? They're just starting out. You know, many of them are probably a little nervous. They're afraid of failure. Any general advice?
Yeah, quit now before it really hurts. No, I mean, you got nothing to lose to them. So what? You know, I mean, it is. God, I remember in the beginning, man, I used to be so afraid. The only way I was able to get business was cold calling people on the phone. And I was not a salesman. So it was something, I mean, people see me as the biggest huckster in the world now, but truthfully, when I got out of college, I could never be a salesman. I said, I could never sell anything. You know, I could never do that, because selling to me was something somebody else didn't want. And you had to convince them and push their buttons and all that kind of stuff. And so if the name of the game is selling, then the way to eliminate selling and be a better salesman is just, you have to believe in what the hell you're doing. I don't sell. You see me on an infomercial, I believe in this shit so much, man. I'm not selling. I mean, you don't want, I'll get on talk to you, I'll throw the book away. You don't need this. You know? Because if you have something higher, you have to have something higher than you and your pocketbook to work for in order to be authentic nowadays. Otherwise, everybody's a little, you know, I mean, the slick people could really fool you, but most of them can't. So, I mean, you have to be real authentic, and that's why find a product, find something you really believe in, that you really feel that people could help. You know, you could help. And so another way to sell to me too is to give things away. If it's information, like 10 reasons product, yeah,
right,
or whatever. I mean, how you know, what anything. Here's 10 things you can do without me. Yeah, and understand the system. What I've learned from understanding this product or whatever, to reassure people that you're just not the kind of grab their money and run away. I mean, I think the world is coming more like that, you know, and with the internet and everything, it is, I think, the way to sell. Everybody's too slick, you know, and people, I think we're getting sick of that. Yeah, and if you're a small guy, how are you going to be different? You know, if you're a big guy, you can compete with a big slick, but you're small, you can't. So you have to compete with honesty. Oh my God.
It is ironic that authenticity can win the day. And, you know, in this world of reviews, you know, Amazon reviews are almost like the future currency, right? If people don't believe in you and you have to earn the reviews, I think Amazon is driving a tremendous amount of customer service improvements across all of these micro businesses. Because if you don't treat the customer right, they'll say it. And that will have big cascading effects. It's funny, by the way, to hear you talk about sales. You know, this is the guy in the question mark suit talking about selling. But really, I agree with you that ultimately transferring your confidence from from yourself to the end buyer, and they should only get it if they need it, if it really adds value to their lifestyle. I really believe in that as well. So it's a funny contrast to see that. So. As I mentioned before, you're very prolific. You create a lot of content. There's a lot of things that you're doing. I know that Lesko.com is one of your websites. What should we be on the lookout for?
Actually, you know what you guys may be interested in more, I just started a new website I'm building called Big Data Lesko, BigDataLesko.com. That has, number one, the largest database of how-to interviews for getting free money. I mean, I got like 1,500 interviews there, how-to interviews. People who got money on the internet and places like that, non-traditional sources of money. Also, I have a database of millions and millions of businesses who got government money. So you could put a zip code in there and see what businesses that you know or in your neighborhood got government money, what they got, so you could apply to the same program.
Cool, I like that.
And you know, people just don't know about that. So that's what we're building, a big database, and it's all public information that we're using, and we don't charge for that.
Well, it really is amazing. You know, the thing is, it's not about being the creator of the information always. It's getting the information to the platform, right? That's no different than Airbnb. You talked about, hey, you've got an idle apartment, but what are you going to do? You're going to go around, run ads, and put up posters. Get that, right? It's all about you know. So it sounds like a service.
More things are technology. I mean, well, my first New York Times bestseller was a book I copied from the government printing office. You know, and it's just packaging, marketing. That's the key. We're all rearranging reality. You know, is really what it is in this country. We're taking somebody else, like somebody in the media services or whatever. The information is all out there. You're saving people time by rearranging it, packaging it, or whatever, and adding a value to it. You know, for people.
time is the one resource you can't buy. So I think it's a high value. Would you mind just briefly telling us the story? Because I've heard it, but I for the benefit of everyone else, of that first book, or that book that you did where literally, you know.
Yeah, I plagiarized the whole thing. See, I flunked English in college. You're in Wisconsin. I went to Marquette in Milwaukee and flunked English there with the Jesuits. And so when I had a New York Times bestseller, man, but my first book I plagiarized, I still plagiarize a hell of a lot. Nothing in the government is copyrighted. I found this book in the government printing office called The Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, just hanging around the you know. And so I really took that book and I cut and paste the whole thing, you know, and sent it to a publisher in New York, you know, and they gave me like 10 grand or something at the time. I don't know what it was, small amount. And then I wanted to tell people about this so much. And so then I got on talk shows, figured out how to do that, and acted like a fool on talk shows. And actually my parents didn't admit I was their kid for the first 10 years on television. I acted so crazy. And it became a New York, and I didn't write a lick, you know, and that's what life is about. It's not, everybody has $1 million ideas. You know, you go to a party, everybody's got a gazillion, but it's doing something. So the name of the game in anything is doing something. And that's right now you could do almost anything for less than nothing. So the only trick in life is doing as much as you possibly can with as little money as, because the name of the game is trying free things. And that's what the internet allows you to do. Now, instead of doing it the way I did, you could take that book, make an ebook out of it yourself for no money, you know, put it on Amazon and just try to promote the hell out of it, you know, and it would cost next to nothing versus hundreds of thousands of dollars that the publisher in New York had to do, you know, to do that. You know, and so you can do it all and get all the money instead of 7.5%, which I got.
I love it. Well, it's a terrific story, and it's a great way to reframe the reality, right? That, you know, it's about access, it's about marketing, it's about kind of adding value, and you certainly have demonstrated that over the years. So the final question I have for you, this is just the fun part of for us, you know. You know, you, of course, again, a big icon in the world that we have grown up in, pop culture for sure. I read somewhere that you are the number 2 or 3 most recognizable guy from infomercials. Maybe that guy,
no, I think it's like number 3, right?
Yeah, so maybe that guy Mike in the sweater who was selling some kind of cooking thing. I don't remember, but
remember him? Yeah,
I do. Yeah, he had an accent.
Yeah.
But the question is, name drop some of the places that you've already talked about. David Letterman. Who else have you met that would be fun for?
You know, boy, I've been on Oprah a few, you know, like 3-4 times. Been to Letterman, I've been about 7 or 8 times. Larry King, maybe a dozen or more. You know, Today Show a handful of times. Good Morning America, Leno. Actually, the hot shows that are there now. Saturday Night Live, I was on. They'll parody me. You know, Jon Stewart parodied me a couple times. Yeah, who's the guy? The British guy that now has his own show. I forget
Oliver?
his name. Yeah, Oliver. He would dress like me and be me for, you know, he's done that a couple times. Yeah, and even who's the guy that now got Letterman's place? He used to talk about me, and you know, the late night comedy people would parody me versus having me on. And I think, like, even Saturday Night Live, somebody dressed like me in something. I remember me and Matt Damon, or someone dressed like me talking to Matt Damon. I forget what it was about government stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, I mean, that's more than I ever thought I'd be able to do in life. Coming from a town like Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, flunking out of school, barely getting through college or whatever. And that's why I think your heart is all that shit out of my brain about what I thought I had to do or the way it should be done. The only way you're going to make a real contribution is digging inside yourself to see what's there, because that you will do better than anybody else. And that, to me, is your best gift that you have to offer to the world, is what's unique about you, not what's the same as everybody else about you, but what is unique about you. And that's your gift to the rest of us. And even to my age now, at 72, I'm still digging down. And even in my personal relationship, family, how to live. I mean, it is a satisfying life. It is being as most natural and authentic and digging inside of you as you possibly can. But there's no encouragement in our society to do that. Everybody encourages you to be like somebody else. So then you're not tapping into the best stuff you have. Yeah. And that's a waste.
What a great way to end this little conversation. I thank you again, Matthew Lesko. Everybody check out bigdatalesko.com. Let's give it a look and check it out. And my thanks to you again. It is a tremendous honor, and I appreciate all your time and your helping give back to entrepreneurs.
Wonderful. And actually, I used the floor cleaner the other day. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you said it. Yes. Taking out the scratches was wonderful.
I love to hear it. All right, Matthew, thank you again. I'm going to click the go button here.